Hey guys, my name is Brandy. I'm going to talk to you today about Chapter 7 in our Real Estate Principles book, the 16th edition. The topics that it covered in this chapter were landlord and tenant, leasehold estates, termination of lease, special purpose leases, other lease and property issues, and property management. There are three things that I really liked in this chapter. It was the sublease, the ways to terminate a lease, and one of the special lease types called percentage lease. So the sublease is when someone leases out a property and then they lease that property to someone else. So when they do that, they're still responsible to the landlord for their property and the lease and all that stuff. So they become a landlord to the tenant, and they're still a tenant to the landlord. So they get stuck in what's called a sandwich lease, which is a really funny term, but it's great. And that differs from an assignment because if they have a lease and then they assign that lease to someone else, then that person is now responsible to the landlord, the original landlord. So the middle guy doesn't have any responsibility anymore to the property or the landlord. Another thing that I liked learning was the ways to terminate a lease. There is a lack of quiet possession, so you have a right to enjoy a property, and if your landlord comes over and bugs you all the time, then they're not letting you enjoy that property. So if they become a nuisance, basically, you can get out of that lease for them not leaving you be. It's one of the ways. There's also if the property becomes uninhabitable, like if the plumbing goes out and the landlord refuses to pay for it and refuses to fix it, you can't live there. It's not livable anymore. So you can take them to court and get out of the lease, or they can just release you from the lease. An eviction, if a tenant refuses to pay and they have to be forcefully removed by the courts and the sheriff department. Once they're out of that house, their lease is terminated. They're no longer responsible for anything else to that house from now on, or to that property from then on. There's the surrender or abandonment. I know some people, they have unforeseen circumstances where they just can't pay anymore. Something just suddenly happens and they can't pay anymore. So they will either move out quickly and surrender the property, or sometimes people will just abandon the property and not say anything to anyone. If that happens, a landlord can petition the courts, or they can put up a notice with it, and then 15 days later they can take possession of the property if they haven't heard anything back, or if they mail it, they have 18 days until they can take the property back. A breach of contract is there's like set things that a tenant is responsible for, and if they don't do those things, then a landlord can say, hey man, you got to get out, you're done with your contract, go. One of those things, for example, like if they don't maintain the lawn properly, then a landlord can say, hey, you're done, you said in your contract you're going to do it and you didn't, sorry, bye. And then destroyed property, like if your property that you're living in gets destroyed by a California wildfire, like we have those here, then we do have those here. So then your lease is you're done. You don't have to keep paying for a property that you can no longer live in because it's not there. And the last part that I thought was cool was the percentage lease. It's one of the special leases, special purpose leases. A percentage lease kind of reminds me of when you have someone who works in sales and they do like base salary plus commission. So this percentage lease is where they have a set cost for a lease, and then when sales exceed a certain point, then they will write a check to the landlord for a percentage of the sales. So it really just reminds me of base salary plus commission. So it's kind of like that. It's just base lease plus commission, even though the landlord didn't actually make any sales. But it's pretty cool how it works. It's like a little bonus for the landlord. If the business in his property is doing good, then he gets to do good too. All right, well, that pretty much wraps up Chapter 7 and the great things we've learned. I look forward to learning more in the future.